You pride yourself on being wise, yet the words you choose can betray your true strength. Each phrase you speak shapes the reality around you, building bridges or burning them. Imagine for a moment that every careless sentence you've ever uttered quietly chipped away at your credibility, your relationships, and your own potential. Why let fear and habit dictate your speech when you can command it with purpose? In this journey, you'll uncover 8 deceptively wise things that intelligent men never say, because these phrases mask fragility, surrender curiosity, and erect barriers between you and genuine growth. These are not mere semantics. They are silent saboteurs, eroding your influence and dimming the light of your character. True wisdom lies not in sounding smart, but in speaking with clarity, restraint, and integrity. Consider Marcus Aurelius's reminder that our words are actions in waiting. He urged himself to be careful of your choice of words, for they have the power to heal or hurt. When you speak without mindfulness, you miss an opportunity to reinforce your strength. But when you embrace deliberate speech, you elevate every conversation into an act of leadership. Today, you will learn to recognize those 8 phrases that, while common, serve only to protect your ego rather than advance your understanding. You will see how dismissing possibility as impossible hides fear of the unknown, how blaming others before reflecting surrenders your power, and how venting without purpose drains your own clarity and that of those around you. Each section will guide you to replace these habits with responses rooted in curiosity, ownership, and disciplined honesty. By the end of this video, you will not only spot these toxic patterns in your own speech, but also gain practical alternatives, words and pauses that strengthen your presence and nurture deeper connection. You'll discover how a single question can transform dismissal into dialogue, how a moment of silence can sharpen your insight, and how a humble acknowledgement of uncertainty can unlock new paths of growth. Ready to step beyond reactive chatter and embrace the quiet confidence of a truly wise man? Lean in, breathe deeply, and prepare to reshape your inner dialogue. Because what you say and what you choose not to say can either confine you to old limitations or set you free to realize the fullest measure of your potential. Welcome to the path of intentional wisdom. Part 1: Certainty without growth. The trap of "I already know that." You felt the urge to dismiss ideas that challenge your worldview. That quick retort, "I already know that," might seem like confidence, but it quietly erects a barrier around your mind. When you close off before you even listen, you contract your world to the limits of what you believe you know. True strength lies in the willingness to remain open, even when the thought before you seems familiar. Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius warned himself daily, "You cannot learn anything when you think you already know everything." He understood that an unteachable mind is a stagnant mind. Knowledge is never a finished monument, but a river that flows through curiosity and humility. When you assume mastery, you silence the river's current and strand yourself on a shore of outdated certainties. A moment of realization. Imagine sitting in a leadership workshop surrounded by peers eager to refine their craft. An instructor shares a subtle technique for decision-making under pressure. You raise your hand, ready to cut him off with, "I already know that." In that instant, you trade the chance to deepen your skill for the comfort of invulnerability. Perhaps you notice the instructor pause, smile, and ask, "Do you know it, or do you live it?" His question sinks in like a stone dropped into still water, fracturing the complacency you didn't realize had settled within you. The cost of closed doors. Each time you choose certainty over receptivity, you lose more than information. You lose connection with the speaker, with new perspectives, and ultimately with your own potential. Your relationships feel thinner because others learn that your ears close before their thoughts arrive. Opportunities slip past you when you assume you've already grasped their value. Growth requires you to stand at the threshold of possibility with curiosity, not fear. Cultivating receptivity. Begin by noticing the stir of defensiveness when someone offers advice or a fresh idea. Pause and breathe. Ask yourself, what if there is a nuance I haven't seen? Can I approach this as a learner even for a moment? By framing your response as a question, help me understand how this applies to my situation. You transform a closed door into an open window. In that space, insight flows. Reframing knowledge as a journey. Shift your self-image from expert to explorer. An explorer knows that every map is incomplete, every horizon conceals new terrain. When you adopt this mindset, you greet familiar ideas with renewed interest, looking for the subtle shades you missed before. You train your mind to catch the detail that changes everything, even if it's the 100th time you hear it. Practical exercises. At the start of each day, choose one belief you hold strongly. Invite someone you trust to challenge it. Listen without interruption. Note the moments when you feel the urge to dismiss. Then thank them for their perspective. Record what shifted in your thinking. Over time, these exercises prime your mind to embrace uncertainty as a path to deeper wisdom. Transforming certainty into curiosity. Whenever you catch yourself asserting, "I already know that," replace it with a simple question: what am I missing? This tiny pivot lights the lantern of humility at the entrance of your understanding. It signals to your mind and to those around you that you value growth over ego. Your path forward. You stand at a crossroads. Remain confined by the illusion of complete knowledge, or step into the vast landscape of continuous learning. By choosing curiosity over certainty, you break free from the silent saboteur that erodes your potential. Let every familiar phrase become an invitation to explore deeper. In that journey, you embody the Stoic ideal: a mind ever open, a soul ever hungry for truth, and a life marked by the quiet confidence of one who knows that the greatest wisdom lies in knowing there is always more to learn. Part 2. Fear disguised as logic. The mask of "that's impossible." You've heard it 100 times. A new idea, a fresh challenge, and someone shrugs with a calm, "That's impossible." It feels tidy, rational, and responsible. Yet behind those two words lies a confession: fear. When you label an opportunity impossible, you close the door on possibility and protect yourself from the vulnerability of trying and perhaps failing. True wisdom demands you see beyond the mask of logic that fear wears. Stoic insight from Seneca. Seneca warned, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The real barrier is not the external challenge, but the story you tell yourself about it. By declaring something impossible, you give shape to your worst imaginings. You resign yourself to limitation before you ever test your strength. The Stoics taught that courage begins by facing the inner voice that whispers, "You can't." A personal encounter with fear. Imagine presenting a bold proposal to your team, a shift into an untapped market, or a daring innovation in your craft. Your heart races with excitement, but you brace for resistance. One colleague calmly dismisses your vision, "That's impossible." Instantly, the room's energy shifts. You feel the current of momentum weaken. Behind that comment isn't cold logic, but the speaker's own fear of uncertainty. In that moment, you realize the true challenge isn't the idea. It's the readiness of minds to embrace risk, unraveling the fear. When you watch someone barricade new paths with impossible, notice the tension in their posture, the quick glance away from your eyes. Fear thrives in hiding, yet logic offers a cloak. By calling something impossible, the speaker sidesteps the anxiety of the unknown. You can choose to see it as an opportunity, a call to step gently into uncharted waters. Recognizing this dynamic empowers you to address the fear beneath, rather than argue with the superficial shield. Reframing possibility. In place of impossible, ask, what is the smallest step I can take toward this? This question shifts the conversation from absolute denial to incremental action. It honors your courage more than any guarantee could. You transform fear into curiosity, inviting your mind to map solutions rather than erect barriers. In doing so, you cultivate a habit of exploring edges instead of fortifying walls. Lessons from Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. You may not control every outcome, but you control your willingness to engage. When faced with a daunting task, you can't demand certainty of success. You can demand the clarity to act. Aurelius's practice was to greet each day at dawn and ask, what good shall I do today? He didn't wait for perfect conditions. He trusted his resolve and adapted to obstacles as they arose. A story of quiet persistence. Consider the tale of a small startup founder who pitched an unproven technology. Investors scoffed, branding the idea impossible. Yet he persisted, refining prototypes, gathering feedback, and celebrating every tiny victory. Over months, what once seemed unachievable became a working model. The initial impossible faded into the history of a barrier overcome. His courage emerged not in defiant declarations, but in steady, patient action that chipped away at doubt. Practical exercises for you. Begin with a list of ideas you've labeled impossible. For each, write down one tangible action you can take this week, no matter how small. Maybe it's researching a related success story, reaching out to a mentor, or experimenting with a basic prototype. Commit to that step, then reflect on what you learned. Gradually, you build evidence that impossible is often a self-inflicted limitation, and each small victory strengthens your faith in possibility. Cultivating a growth mindset. Shift your inner dialogue from I can't to I will explore. When fear arises, greet it with kindness. Thank you for warning me of risk. Now show me the path forward. This practice softens the grip of fear and invites reasoned inquiry. You learn to distinguish genuine constraints, like physical laws, from imagined ones born of doubt. In doing so, you embrace the Stoic ideal, a mind that neither shrinks from challenge nor clings to false security. Your path beyond fear. You stand at the edge of endless potential. The phrase, "that's impossible," may echo around you, but you hold the power to rewrite the narrative. By recognizing fear's disguise, reframing your response, and taking deliberate steps forward, you transform obstacles into arenas for growth. When you replace denial with exploration, you embody the wisdom of the Stoics. True strength is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in its presence. Part 3. Evading responsibility, the hidden cost of "not my fault." You've uttered those words in moments of discomfort. "That's not my fault." They slip from your lips like a shield, instantly deflecting blame and sparing your pride. Yet each time you say them, you trade ownership of your life for a fleeting sense of relief. Responsibility is the currency of growth. When you refuse to spend it, you forfeit your ability to influence what comes next. Stoic truth from Epictetus. Epictetus reminded us, It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Blame is a seductive escape hatch. It promises you innocence while chaining your future to external forces. When you insist a failure is someone else's doing, you relinquish the one power you truly hold, the power to choose your reaction and chart a new course. A glimpse in the mirror. Imagine a crucial project falling apart. The deadline slips, deliverables miss the mark, and tension mounts among your team. You feel the heat of potential failure and instantly think, it wasn't me. The team dropped the ball. In that moment, you protect your ego but sabotage your impact. You remain a spectator in your own story rather than the author capable of rewriting the ending. Turning blame into agency. Each responsibility you accept is a seed of empowerment. When you own your part, even if it's only the decision to respond differently, you reclaim agency. Consider changing your internal script from, "It's not my fault," to, "Here's what I can do next." That shift transforms paralysis into momentum. You become a force of influence rather than a passive victim of circumstance. Stoic practice of ownership. Adopt the Stoic practice of immediate reflection. After any setback, pause and ask yourself, what part did I play? Journal the answers without judgment. Celebrate the aspects beyond your control. Then zero in on what you can change. This habit rewires your mind to see problems as invitations to act rather than excuses to retreat. Lessons from real life. Years ago, a manager in my organization lost a key client due to miscommunication. His first instinct was to blame the sales team for overpromising. The client was gone, and with it, revenue and morale. Later, he revisited the situation alone and realized he had neglected to set clear expectations. By taking responsibility, he rebuilt trust, both with the client and his team. His honest ownership became the foundation for stronger relationships and renewed success. The power of "I could have." When you say, "I could have," you break free from blame and step into possibility. I could have communicated more clearly. I could have anticipated that risk. Each "could" plants a flag on ground you can claim. It reminds you that no matter what happened, you still hold initiative. This language shift is subtle but profound. It rewires your identity from innocent bystander to active protagonist. Embracing the uncomfortable responsibility can feel heavy, like carrying a weight you'd rather set down. Yet Stoic thinkers saw this weight as a badge of honor. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." When you accept responsibility, even for the uncomfortable parts, you transform obstacles into catalysts. You become stronger, more adaptable, and more deeply aligned with your values. Practical steps forward. Begin each day by visualizing potential challenges, conflicts, mistakes, unforeseen events. For each, rehearse your response. Acknowledge your part, propose a solution, and commit to action. This mental rehearsal primes your mind to act from responsibility instead of react with blame. When real challenges arrive, you step forward with composed purpose. The ripple effect of ownership. Your acceptance of responsibility doesn't just reshape your life, it influences those around you. Team members learn that accountability is not a threat, but a path to collective improvement. Relationships deepen as trust grows. People feel seen and valued when you own your part in any outcome. Your leadership emerges not from authority, but from the integrity of your example. Your sacred invitation, standing at the crossroads of blame and ownership. Choose the latter. Embrace the Stoic discipline of accepting your role in every situation. Let "that's not my fault" become a signal that you've identified a habit to transform. Step into the power of "here's what I'll do next" and watch how your life shifts from reactive to intentional. In that space, you no longer wait for circumstances to change. You become the change agent of your own destiny. Part 4. The Isolation Trap. The peril of "I don't need help." You felt the surge of pride when you tackle challenges alone, whispering to yourself, "I don't need help." In that moment, it feels empowering, a declaration of independence. Yet beneath the bravado lies a hidden prison. By rejecting assistance, you cut yourself off from perspectives that widen your understanding and from hands that steady you when you falter. True strength emerges not from standing alone, but from knowing when to lean on others. Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius on mentorship. Even the emperor-philosopher Marcus Aurelius credited the guidance of his teachers and friends. He wrote in his Meditations, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." Pride convinces you that help diminishes your worth. Detachment reminds you that wisdom is shared, not hoarded. By embracing the support of trusted mentors, you honor humility and cultivate resilience. A personal story of solitude. Imagine you're leading a critical project, shoulders heavy with expectation. Late nights become your norm as you refuse to delegate or ask for input. Mistakes multiply until the weight becomes unbearable. Then, in a moment of vulnerability, you reach out to a colleague whose judgment you respect. Their simple question, "What if we try this approach?" undoes weeks of struggle in minutes. You realize isolation nearly cost you success and peace of mind. Embracing community as strength. Isolation is an illusion of control. In reality, human connection amplifies your capabilities. When you invite collaboration, you open channels for creativity, insight, and encouragement. Just as a flame thrives when many logs fuel it, your resolve grows richer when others contribute. Your journey becomes a shared tapestry, woven with diverse threads of experience and empathy. Finding courage to ask. Asking for help can feel like admitting weakness, but Stoic courage is not the absence of fear. It's action in spite of it. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Allow yourself to ask questions, invite critique, and learn from mistakes. Each request for guidance is an act of courage, a step toward greater mastery and deeper connection. Stories of collaborative triumph. Consider the founding of a great company, born not from a lone genius, but from a team of visionaries pooling their talents. When the first prototype failed, the founder turned to engineers, designers, and users for feedback. Together, they refined the model into a breakthrough product. Without collaboration, innovation stalls. With it, you discover solutions beyond what any individual mind could achieve. Practical steps to break isolation. Start small. Identify one area where you feel stuck: technical skill, emotional support, or vision. Then reach out to one person, a mentor, a teammate, or a friend. Frame your request simply, "I'm wrestling with this challenge. Could I get your perspective?" Schedule regular check-ins. As you practice this habit, you'll find that support networks strengthen and your confidence grows, not despite asking for help, but because of it. Balancing independence and interdependence. Stoicism values self-reliance, yet it also honors our shared humanity. Independence without interdependence is rigidity. Interdependence without independence is dependence. Strive for balance. Cultivate skills that empower you to act decisively, but also nurture relationships that sustain you through uncertainty. In this harmony, you become a true Stoic warrior, unyielding in principle, adaptable in practice. Your path forward. Recognize the moment you feel tempted to say, "I don't need help." Pause and ask yourself, What strength could emerge if I invited another's wisdom? In that question lies your liberation from isolation. By weaving support into your life, you transform solitude into solidarity and vulnerability into shared power. Step forward with the humility to learn and the confidence to lead. With allies at your side, you become more than you ever could alone. Part 5. Surrendering to limits. You've heard it in quiet moments of doubt. I'm too old for that. Or, that's just how I am. These declarations feel safe, shielding you from the discomfort of growth. Yet beneath their soothing familiarity lies a surrender to stagnation. When you accept limits as fixed, you close the door on your own potential. Character, like clay, remains pliable until the moment you assume it is set in stone. Stoic reflection. Marcus Aurelius on mortality. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He did not invoke mortality as a morbid threat, but as a catalyst for growth. As long as breath fills your lungs, you remain a work in progress. To say I'm too old is to reject the gift of time you still possess, the illusion of finality. Imagine a man who, at 50, decided he could never learn a new language. He told himself it was just how he was, monolingual and settled. Years passed, and he watched others travel, connect, and expand their world through speech while he remained anchored to his self-imposed barrier. That barrier felt real until the day he challenged it with a single phrase. What if I begin today? With that question, he discovered the power to rewrite his story. Reframing age as raw potential. Age is not a prison. It is raw material for wisdom and resilience. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we are given a short life, but we make it short. Every year you've lived equips you with experience others lack. When you embrace change at any stage, you honor the lessons of your past and ignite the promise of your future." Facing the comfort of that's just how I am. When you label a trait as immutable, I've always been this way, you grant yourself permission to avoid self-examination. Yet true Stoic courage lies in confronting those patterns. Epictetus challenged us to examine our impulses. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you envision a more compassionate, brave, or disciplined self, you must act to become it, regardless of past habits. A story of rediscovery. Consider the carpenter at 63 who had never held a chisel. He felt too old and too set in his ways to try. One day, his daughter invited him to carve a simple wooden bowl together. Hesitant, he agreed. His first cuts were clumsy, each splinter a reminder of his inexperience. Yet with each stroke, he felt a spark of joy, an awakening he had forgotten. A year later, he gifted her a hand-carved table. The table's imperfections spoke of perseverance, not wasted years. In that act, he reclaimed his capacity to learn and create. Practical steps to challenge limits. Begin by identifying one belief you've held as absolute. Write it down. Next, ask yourself, what's one small action I can take today to test this belief? If you believe you're too old for athletic training, commit to a 10-minute walk or gentle stretch. If you think you lack creativity, sketch a simple shape. Each small step chips away at the illusion of immutability and builds momentum toward transformation, embracing change as nature. The Stoics saw nature as constant change. Marcus Aurelius observed that rivers flow without pause, seasons turn, and stars traverse the heavens. You are part of that ever-evolving cosmos. By resisting change, you clash with the very essence of existence. When you welcome transformation, you align yourself with the rhythms of life and unlock a sense of harmony and possibility. cultivating a growth mindset. Replace "I'm too old" with "I'm experienced enough to tackle this." Replace "That's just how I am" with "This is how I've been, and I can choose a new way." Language shapes perception. These simple shifts open your mind to potential rather than closing it with self-imposed restrictions. Over time, you'll find that every "I can't" becomes an invitation to discover what you can. Your ongoing journey. Growth is not a path with a fixed endpoint, but a continuous unfolding. Each day offers you a choice: to surrender to limits or to rise above them with small, courageous acts. When you feel the pull of resignation, return to Aurelius's reminder of mortality, not as a threat, but as a beacon urging you to use your time wisely. Let every breath you take reaffirm your commitment to evolve. A final invitation: stand at the threshold of possibility and step through. Show yourself that age, habit, and past choices need not confine you. In the crucible of intention, character becomes stronger, more refined, and more authentic. Release the notion of fixed limits and embrace the ever-rolling river of your own potential. In doing so, you honor the Stoic path, living every moment as a testament to your capacity for growth at any age, in any circumstance. Part 6. The Deferred Life. The siren call of "I'll do it later." You've whispered it to yourself countless times. "I'll do it later." It sounds responsible, postponing until the perfect moment, yet later is a mirage that drifts farther away with every excuse. Each later pushes your dreams into the shadows of what-ifs until one day you awaken to find the window has closed and regret stands in its place. Stoic Wake-Up Call from Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This isn't a threat, but an invitation to urgency. If time is not guaranteed, then every moment becomes sacred. When you defer the important, learning a skill, mending a relationship, pursuing your passion, you gamble with finite breath. The Stoics teach that clarity arises when you regard life as both gift and fleeting opportunity. A moment of realization. Imagine you've been meaning to call your estranged friend for months. Every time you reach for the phone, an inner voice says, "I'll do it next week." Then one morning, you learn they've moved away without warning. The apologies you rehearse now echo into empty voicemail. That is the true cost of deferral: lost connections, missed chances, and the ache of words left unspoken. Turning postponement into action. When you catch yourself saying later, pause and reframe. What small step can I take right now? It might be a 10-minute call, writing a draft email, or spending 5 minutes practicing that language or instrument you promised yourself. By acting on the next smallest step, you build momentum. Each micro-action transforms later into now, and your deferred life begins to reclaim its rhythm of purpose. Seneca's wisdom on time. Seneca cautioned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He observed that accumulated moments of delay can amount to years of unfulfilled potential. When you waste a single afternoon convincing yourself you'll start tomorrow, you erode your future. The remedy? Treat each fragment of time as precious. Guard it with intention. A story of small beginnings. Consider the man who dreamed of writing a book but kept telling himself, "I'll start next month." Finally, one evening, he committed 15 minutes to an outline. That small session blossomed into a daily habit. Months later, he held the first draft in his hands. By refusing to defer indefinitely, he honored the vision that once felt too big for a single step. Practical exercises for you. At the start of your day, identify one task you've postponed. Set a timer for 5 minutes now. Commit to acting on it until the timer dings. Whether it's drafting an apology, researching a course, or sketching a concept, those 5 focused minutes break the inertia. Repeat this exercise daily and you'll transform later into a practice of immediate engagement. Overcoming the illusion of perfect timing. Perfection is the enemy of progress. You might think you need more time, resources, or confidence before acting, yet every waiting room you inhabit delays your growth. Stoicism teaches you to act within the constraints you have. By starting imperfectly, you generate feedback, learning, and refinement. Each iteration brings you closer to excellence than endless planning ever would. Cultivating a now mindset shift your language from "I'll do it later" to "I choose to do this now." This subtle shift places you in the driver's seat, acknowledging that action is a matter of choice rather than circumstance. Speak your intention aloud. "I will call my friend in 5 minutes." The moment you vocalize and timestamp your commitment, you sidestep the trap of vague delay. The ripple effect of immediate action. When you honor your commitments promptly, you cultivate self-trust. You prove to yourself that your word matters, that trust ripples into every area of life. You follow through on professional goals, nurture deeper relationships, and grow more aligned with your values. People around you notice your integrity and rise to match your example. Your path out of deferral. The deferred life is a silent thief of purpose, but you hold the power to reclaim each stolen moment. By anchoring yourself in the present, embracing small actions, and resisting the allure of perfect timing, you transform your experience from waiting to becoming. Let every later become now, and watch how urgency and meaning weave into every breath of your life. A final invitation. Pause right now. Scan your mind for that one later you've been nursing. Take 5 minutes to act on it. In that simple act of presence, you declare war on deferred living and pledge allegiance to the Stoic path, a life lived with purpose, immediacy, and unshakable resolve. Part 7. Weaponized honesty. When honesty becomes armor. You've felt the rush of righteous truth, stepping into a conversation and declaring, "At least I'm being honest." In that moment, honesty feels like a weapon, sharp, potent, and self-validating. Yet, truth wielded without care cuts both the speaker and the listener. When you hide aggression or insecurity behind honesty, you sacrifice connection for the illusion of integrity. Stoic insight from Epictetus. Epictetus taught, "Be not angry that you cannot make others as you wish them to be, since you cannot make yourself as you wish to be." Honesty aimed at dominance betrays your own imperfection. Stoic bravery lies in speaking truth tempered with empathy, owning your faults even as you call for accountability in others. True honesty builds bridges. Weaponized honesty walls you off. The hidden vulnerability. Imagine confronting a friend with harsh criticism. Preface it with, "I'm just being honest," and watch their expression collapse. In that moment, your blunt words reveal a deeper need to assert superiority, to deflect your own discomfort. You protect yourself from judgment by hiding behind the honest label. Yet genuine courage would be to speak your truth and risk being misunderstood, rather than to arm your words with ruthless intent. Relearning compassionate truth. Compassion and truth need not be opponents. Seneca reminded us, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." When you deliver honesty as an act of kindness, you shift your purpose from self-defense to mutual growth. Instead of slashing away perceived faults, aim to illuminate blind spots with gentle precision, like a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer. A story of misguided candor. There was a leader who believed that blunt feedback, masked as radical honesty, would forge a stronger team. His barbed comments, "You're lazy. You clearly don't care," were excused as just how I am. His team learned to fear his presence, silenced their creativity, and eventually left. Only after losing his best people did he recognize the truth. Honesty without care killed morale. He rebuilt trust by coupling feedback with genuine concern, demonstrating that truth delivered with empathy fosters loyalty and excellence. Practicing truth with temperance. When you feel compelled to preface criticism with, "I'm only being honest," pause. Ask, "What outcome do I truly desire?" If it is to hurt, you're weaponizing honesty. If it is to help, frame your feedback with context. "I care about your success, so I want to share what I've observed." By stating your intention, you invite collaboration rather than resistance. The discipline of timing. Stoic practice values the right word at the right moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But equally vital is to ask, is this the right time? Timing transforms truth from a dagger into a lifeline. Share hard truths when emotions have settled, not in the heat of conflict. In those quiet spaces, your words land with clarity, not chaos. Balancing honesty and silence. Silence can be as potent as speech. When your heart surges with unfiltered truth, resist immediate release. Reflect. Will this reveal build understanding or erect walls? Sometimes restraint itself is a deeper honesty, an acknowledgement that the moment isn't ripe or that the issue requires more introspection before airing. Cultivating a gentle voice. Gentle honesty doesn't dilute truth. It demands mastery. Learn to soften your tone, choose words that invite response, and listen as much as you speak. Practice by offering one sincere compliment before any critique. This prepares the listener's mind and models the balance between candor and kindness. Over time, your presence becomes a harbor where truth can land safely. Your path to disciplined honesty. Challenge yourself to replace "I'm just being honest" with "I care about your growth, so here's my perspective." Notice how this shift alters both the reception of your words and your own intent. Truth becomes a shared exploration rather than a solo declaration. You transform from a wielding warrior into a guiding sage, a final invitation. Weaponized honesty severs ties. Disciplined honesty strengthens them. As you refine your speech, let empathy temper your candor, timing shape your delivery, and purpose guide your words. In doing so, you honor the Stoic ideal, living with integrity, speaking with compassion, and forging deeper connections through truth that heals rather than harms. Part 8. Emotional Floodgates. The burden of unfiltered venting. You've felt relief as you unraveled your frustrations in a torrent of words. "I just need to vent." In that raw release, you imagine comfort arriving, yet each outpouring leaves a residue, not of clarity but of chaos. When you unload unprocessed emotion onto others, you train them to anticipate turmoil instead of trust. Real healing begins within, not in the marketplace of unchecked feelings. Stoic perspective. Epictetus on judgment. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it that disturbs you." Emotional flooding disguises a deeper refusal to sit with discomfort. By externalizing every impulse, you outsource your inner work to those around you. Stoic practice calls you to own your interpretations, to sift through your emotions, and to choose which narratives deserve voice. A moment of reflection. Imagine ending a long day, your mind swirling with unresolved tension. You share every grievance with a friend, believing honesty cements connection. Instead, you watch their expression twitch with unease. In that moment, you realize your venting has become noise, drowning out genuine dialogue and eroding the safety you sought to strengthen. You crave understanding, yet you overwhelm the listener's capacity to empathize, cultivating internal processing. Before you speak, pause and breathe. Acknowledge the feelings rising within you. Journal them, walk them out, or sit in silence long enough to recognize their shape. By processing internally, you transform raw emotion into thoughtful insight. Stoic silence is not repression, it is discipline. It offers the clarity needed to decide which thoughts deserve expression and which should be released in solitude. Stories of disciplined expression. Consider the diplomat who, after a heated negotiation, retreated to a quiet room to reflect on his frustrations. He wrote a private letter he never sent, clarifying his fears and aspirations. Returning to the table, he spoke with calm intention, addressing concerns without assaulting egos. His measured words carried weight precisely because he had mastered his inner torrent before voicing it. Filtering through intention. When you feel the urge to vent, ask, what outcome do I want? If your goal is to be heard, choose to share one clear point rather than a flood of grievances. If you seek problem solving, frame your concern as a question. Here's what happened. How might I approach it differently? In doing so, you transform emotional dumping into constructive conversation, fostering trust instead of fatigue. Balanced vulnerability. Vulnerability is a cornerstone of authentic connection, but it requires balance. Brené Brown reminds us that vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up. When you show up with intention, sharing precisely what you need support for, you invite genuine empathy. This disciplined honesty deepens relationships far more than relentless venting ever could. Practical exercises for emotional mastery. Set aside a daily emotional check, a brief period for private reflection. Label your feelings, anger, sadness, hope, and explore their origins. Use a journal prompt. What am I feeling right now, and what do I need most? After this practice, if you choose to share, you speak from a place of clarity, not impulse. Over time, this routine trains your mind to sift and sort, making each spoken word a deliberate act. The strength of measured speech. True Stoic strength is in restraint. When you hold back the flood, you prove to yourself that you can navigate inner storms without external crutches. That calm authority resonates more deeply than any venting session. People learn that your words carry intention and integrity, not the shadows of your unchecked turmoil. Your path to emotional sovereignty. Release yourself from the cycle of emotional outsourcing. Embrace the Stoic discipline of processing within, then speaking with purpose. In doing so, you reclaim the power of your narrative and deepen your connections. Your life becomes not an uncontrolled flood, but a carefully irrigated garden where each drop of emotion nurtures growth rather than erosion. Conclusion. You've identified 8 phrases that quietly erode your strength, fracture your relationships, and stall your growth. By choosing curiosity over certainty, courage over comfort, and discipline over impulse, you step into the true wisdom of the Stoics. Your words become bridges instead of barriers, and your silence carries as much weight as your speech. Remember, real mastery lies in the balance between speaking and listening, owning your story and seeking new insights, expressing your emotions with intention and processing them with care. If this video resonated, subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy for more guidance on cultivating an unshakable mind and a disciplined heart. Hit the bell to receive new reflections that will sharpen your speech, deepen your resilience, and illuminate your path. Share this with someone who's ready to transform their words into tools of empowerment, and leave a comment below on which phrase you're committed to shedding first. Thank you for listening so attentively. May your silence be strategic, your honesty be kind, and your actions be grounded in purpose. Continue closing the gap between your values and your speech, because a truly wise man doesn't just speak less, he speaks from the depth of his character.